Bully, as we all know, is a very light-hearted game, taking a heavy approach at satirical school life, with stereotypes and satire running amok. But there's one place in the game that is the exact opposite of all of that, and that place is Happy Volts Asylum. Unlocked in Chapter 4, Happy Volts Asylum is stationed at the southeast edge of the map, located between Bullworth Academy and Blue Skies Industrial Park. However, when we set foot inside Happy Volts, the light-hearted humour and charm of Bully quickly disappears, and is instead replaced with a very sinister and evil kind of vibe, where we can hear somebody possibly being tortured as we hear his screams alongside various drill noises. But here's the thing, the asylum houses no inmates at all. The only people, or should I say the only person who is here, is a lone orderly by the name of Theo. Weirdly enough, even though he's the only person who is here, there's multiple instances of him inside and outside the asylum. So what secrets does this place hold? Well, in this video we're going to try and find out as we analyse both the myths and the cut content surrounding Happy Volts. So let's begin. In Galloway Away, it's revealed that Mr. Hattrick got Mr. Galloway incarcerated at Happy Volts Asylum to try and get him to sober up, against his will. So Jimmy is tasked by Ms. Phillips to help get him out. Upon gaining access to the asylum grounds, an inmate quickly runs up to Jimmy and says this:
"I think I'll just follow you for a while. Let's be friends, but don't anger the Watcher."
And then the camera pans to the statue. So our first mystery here is, who is the Watcher? The only reference we have to go off here is the statue itself. Now, it's not uncommon for statues to be made in somebody's honour or as a symbol. In Bully we have 3 statues, one of the school mascot, which is likely representing the Bullworth Bullhorns, a statue in Bullworth Town, which is likely a statue of Bullworth's founder or some other historical figure, and of course the Asylum statue. Now, the Watcher statue might be a statue that's commemorating the founder of Happy Volts Asylum, but something doesn't add up here. But let's take a look at the statue itself. It appears to be wearing a robe and is doing a pose which is something that you'd often see in a religious context. Now, Otto's comment about the Watcher is rather unsettling too, as he mentions "don't anger the Watcher," which of course is something that's common in religious themes, or cults, you know, about not pissing off God or pissing off a leader or whatever. Now, since Otto is in the asylum, it could be Otto just assuming the statue is God or some other supernatural being. But the fact that the statue is in a pose, which is something very commonly found on religious statues, makes me believe that the asylum could be a front for a cult too. Which, if it is, it's a great counter to Grand Theft Auto's Epsilon cult, as well as being a much darker tone too. However, there's very little evidence to support a possible cult at Happy Volts Asylum, nor is there any more info about the statue, like nobody mentions it outside this one quote. So this mystery is down to player interpretation. Personally, I'm very fond of the idea of Happy Volts Asylum being a front for a cult, since it adds an incredibly dark tone to an otherwise light-hearted game. Upon entering the asylum, we hear an incredibly unsettling sound, a man screaming with the sounds of drills. However, as mentioned at the beginning of the video, no inmates are seen inside the asylum, outside of the missions Finding Johnny Vincent and Galloway Away. No matter where we go, we cannot find anybody aside from Theo the Orderly, and he's not carrying a drill. Now, many people wonder why this is. Could it be ghosts, or could it just be something else? The reason for this is because during development there was plans to have asylum inmates inside their cells, but this was removed for unknown reasons. And there's also a rumour that the inmates would have patrolled the asylum grounds too during certain times, but there's nothing to confirm that either. However, if this was true, it was most likely removed, since the idea of Jimmy being able to assault mentally unwell people probably wouldn't have gone down well with all the other controversies Bully had during its development. It also may have been removed because of the fact that some of the asylum inmates are townies, who are Otto, Henry and Leon, who actually do appear as inmates in Finding Johnny Vincent and Galloway Away. Now, another reason why this could have been removed could have been because it sort of breaks immersion. Like, for example, you can see, say, Henry on the streets in Bullworth Town, but at the same time he's inside Happy Volts Asylum. It really doesn't make much sense. Okay, I know Bully is sort of known for having NPCs appear randomly, like for example Algernon could be at the library, yet he's somehow at the school 20 seconds later, but he hasn't left the library, if that makes sense. But that's not really on the same level as being free but being imprisoned at the same time. Now, there's quite a load of unused audio files for the inmates too, which actually back this theory up, many of whom actually appear to be cut characters, and others who are actually townsfolk that we can actually find around town. I'll play a small few now.
Please don't take away my blue goose, he's my only friend! So you put one small helping of seafood in your shoes and they put you in the madhouse. Where is the justice in that?
Man, I've been here for 12 years! I wonder if anyone forgot about me!
It's the monkey dance! It's the monkey dance! It's the wonderful monkey dance!
Why did I do it? Why?
This place is possessed by ghosts. I know it. Nasty ghosts.
Now, one thing I've noticed is that if you turn off the in-game music while inside Happy Volts Asylum, we can sometimes hear a female character saying one of the quotes that was just played. However, I believe this is actually Miss Roshinsky, who can still be found around Bulworth Town and Old Bulworth Vale. It's also interesting because in both asylum missions, there are no female inmates. So it seems Rockstar was going to go with the screams being part of the ambience to give off a much creepier vibe. Like say you can hear the inmates screaming when you're the other side of the asylum and nowhere near them. And going off this, it seems that the whole inmates being inside the asylum thing was dropped quite early into development. This could also mean that at one point characters like Miss Roshinsky may have had asylum models, much like some of the townies have. And sadly, there are no images or anything like that of the other inmates who seemingly were created just to be asylum inmates. Now when we enter through the first doors of the asylum, we find ourselves in the A block, and for some unexplained reason there's always a cell that has its door open at all times. Now this cell actually houses a rather unsettling glitch that will softlock your game. If you enter the asylum before completing Finding Johnny Vincent, let Theo spot you and then jump into the open cell in the A block. If done correctly, the door will shut behind you and Theo and it's unable to be opened again. Now if Jimmy somehow manages to knock Theo out or apologise to him, the cell will remain locked and Jimmy will be stuck inside the cell. There is no way to get out of the cell without being knocked out or busted or reloading a save game. Not even passing out puts Jimmy back outside, he'll simply wake up inside his cell and you cannot get out. Now for some unexplained reason this glitch will fail to work after completing Finding Johnny Vincent. I think what makes this glitch extra creepy than all the other softlock glitches is how it's set up. Like Jimmy has to be chased by an orderly, like it's almost like Theo is shutting the door on Jimmy as a punishment for trespassing. Now I believe this cell is actually used once in game, and that's during the mission Galloway Away, where after Jimmy enters the asylum he can see orderlies shoving somebody into a cell. However, I still don't know why it remains open at all times in free mode however. Now I want to quickly bring something up because I haven't seen anybody mention this, and that is Tad Spencer's brother. In the mission The Eggs, when Jimmy arrives at Tad's house, Tad mentions he has a brother who, to quote Tad, "Just because my elder brother doesn't have a chin and ended up in a lunatic asylum doesn't mean anything." Which could imply that Tad's brother could actually be in Happy Volts Asylum, but we never see him. In Finding Johnny Vincent however, if we take a look at the NPCs who are in the cells in the B block, we can see this strange character, who we don't actually see anywhere else in the game, well aside from Galloway Away. Now unlike all the other inmates like Henry, Leon and Otto, it seems this character was created solely for Happy Volts, rather than it being a reused character with a different outfit. Now while this is a good thing, it's also a bad thing because, well, we just don't ever see him or talk to him ever again. Finding Johnny Vincent is the only mission where Jimmy can actually talk to this person. He does appear in Galloway Away, but he's actually the character being shoved into a cell and he cannot be talked to. So could this person be Tad Spencer's brother? I highly doubt that this guy is Tad Spencer's brother. Tad did say his brother doesn't have a chin, but this guy does. Plus this guy looks a lot older than Tad to be considered his brother. I wonder if this means Tad's brother may have been planned as an asylum inmate at one point in development, or even if one of the unused asylum inmate audio files may have been Tad's brother. Of course, there's always a chance that Tad's brother might not even be in Bulworth, but sadly we may never know. It's also worth noting that during the 2 asylum missions, another orderly appears, whose name is Gregory. Now Gregory is a strange character since he's both a cut character, but yet he still appears in game. Now unlike other cut characters from the game, Gregory has a full audio bank, and if added to free mode he blends in incredibly well with all the other authority figures. Now it's unknown why Gregory was removed from the game. However, one thing that makes Gregory stick out from all the other authority figures is his personality. He has a much more friendly personality than everyone else, and Gregory appears to actually genuinely care and only wants to help others, unlike other authority figures who use their power as an excuse to hurl abuse and harm others, aka Seth. Now if we venture further into the asylum, we find ourselves in the lounge area. I don't know what to actually call it, so I'm just calling it the lounge. and this room has 3 paths, one to the A block and to the exit, one to the B block, which is rather similar to the A block, and the C block, which is blocked off at all times. Now it's always blocked off regardless whenever the player enters the asylum, but if we jump into the door breaks open and we can explore the C block in all its rundown glory. Now this place is incredibly unsettling. The roof looks like it's caved in here, even though the roof is perfectly intact. There's no doors on the cells or anything, and these cells lack mattresses, or the mattresses are there but they're half on the bed, half on the floor. So it appears this block may have been used to house the more violent and unpredictable inmates. Now aside from crates, there's not much to really explore here. Now if we carry on down this route, we'll find an emergency room. Now this place is arguably the most unsettling place in the entire game. Like if we look over to this side of the wall, we can see a few x-rays, however none of these look like they are human x-rays either. Now this room is a very common place for other bully myths, such as the werewolf and an alien, as some players believe that these x-rays are signs that a werewolf or an alien was at Happy Volts before escaping. Now the werewolf myth is one of Bully's most popular myths, being the Bully equivalent to GTA San Andreas' Bigfoot. Now even though the werewolf myth has proven to be false, it began due to the fact that on Wolf Academy grounds and the surrounding woodland areas you can hear howls late at night, and the fact that this x-ray sort of looks like a creature who is hunched over, if that makes sense. So what does this actually have to do with Happy Volts exactly? Well, some players believe that the werewolf escaped Happy Volts, and it's why it can be heard near the woodland areas rather than being heard randomly around the map late at night. Now the second theory about these x-rays are aliens. Now the story is basically the same as the werewolf, you know, like the asylum had an alien who escaped and all that crap. But unlike the werewolf, which only had audio hints, aliens had much more to back them up, namely what happens after beating a little help 6, where the hobo gets abducted by a UFO after Jimmy leaves, and the fact that in Scholarship Edition's multiplayer mode, there's a chance that the players will operate on dissected aliens in the biology class. However, there's nothing to suggest Happy Volts has anything to do with these theories, other than x-rays. Now if we turn around a bit more, we can see a morgue. Now this morgue actually has a door open, implying that a body has been recently removed. Now it could also mean that Happy Volts isn't just an asylum, but also acts as a morgue, as it seems, at least in Bully's lore, the medical facilities are part of a company known as Happy, as shown by Happy Endings retirement home in Old Bull Vale, which is also patrolled by Theo the Orderly. So this morgue might be connected to Happy Endings retirement home when one of the residents passes away. It does make sense for a bit of realism in Bully too. I also want to quickly debunk another myth here, as some players believe that the asylum orderlies are too scared to enter this room, as if Jimmy has a full row trouble meter, they'll just sort of run up and down the hall and won't enter. However, this is actually false. They will enter the room eventually, it just seems like their paths are a bit bugged here, and for some reason they just run up and down. Now there's actually another glitch here that involves Theo, and one I'll call the disappearing glitch. If we head to Happy Volts Asylum and go near the door, equip your super slingshot and look around for Theo, and then shoot him. He'll begin to chase you as normal. Now keep your camera locked onto him and wait for him to run out the door. Now when he does, run down the road and Theo will just suddenly disappear with no warning or anything. He just flat out disappears. And if you go back up to the asylum, he'll be back to wherever he was where you shot him. Now this is most likely a glitch, but it's still a really strange one. So that just about wraps up my investigation on Happy Volts Asylum. It seems like the asylum's mysteries are both a mix of cut content and are just there to creep the player out. Sadly, some of the stuff surrounding the asylum are incredibly vague and really don't have much to go off, which is disappointing. Like I think if Rockstar left more hints about the x-rays and who or what they were of, scattered around the map or on the asylum grounds, would be a really good creepy Easter egg. Likewise for the Watcher. And even though a very small amount of players have claimed ghosts are in the asylum, I really don't think they are, because I haven't found anything that confirms or even hints at it. So that's my video for today, I hope you enjoyed and thank you for watching.